Hey YouTube, this is Drollbird coming at you today with a Volcanic deck profile. I hope you enjoy. So to start off, I play 3 copies of Volcanic Shell. He's just standard search. I mean, if you get him in Blaze Accelerator Reload, he ends up becoming a +2 because you'll be able to pitch one with the reload, draw one, that replaces itself, and then he searches another. That one replaces itself, and then that one searches another, and that one replaces itself. And each time you do that, you get a +1. So, also, if you recycle it with Royal Firestorm Guards, it adds more plussing. 3 copies of Scattershot. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't play 1 or 2, because that would be pretty stupid. So this is pretty standard. It's your win condition just to nuke the board. But sadly, they did make a ruling. It's been the ruling the whole time. I think that when we get the Errata and Astropack 7, it will be different. But right now, it only inflicts 1,000 damage. The first one that triggers the effect will not be able to resolve the inflict 500 damage effect. 1 copy of Volcanic Counter. It's essentially Magic Cylinder, except if your opponent isn't attacking, you can just attack into them with a shell or something and make it game, because you can banish this from grave and they'll take the same amount of damage you took. 3 copies of Volcanic Rocket. It's just whenever it's summoned, it searches your deck for your Blaze Accelerator Reload. And it's 19 beat stick, which is not bad. And then as the last Volcanic, 1 Volcanic Doomfire. When Blaster got banned, I decided I needed to play another boss monster. And so I decided to try out Doomfire, and it's been working pretty well because it does set up your reload in grave, and also it's a 3,000 beat stick that it has a Battle Mania effect, and all your opponent's monsters must attack it. So like if you have a Lavalval Chain or something, they can't attack over it. And then if it kills a monster by battle, all your opponent's monsters are destroyed, and they take 500 damage for each one. So if he does get on board, he's pretty devastating. 3 copies of Royal Firestorm Guards. It's just the Pot of Avarice for the deck. Simple as that. 2 copies of Summoner Monk. It just allows you to pitch dead spells to special summon Rocket from deck and overlay for 4 after getting a search. And the last monster is 2 copies of Farfa, Malbranch of the Burning Abyss. It's really just there to out cards like, I don't know, like, maybe Naturia Barkion or something. If I hit it with Farfa, it allows me to activate my traps for a turn. It's really just an out to anything my opponent throws at me monster-wise, and I do have ways to put it in grave pretty easily. So that's it for the monsters. I play somewhere around 20, I believe. Maybe a little bit less. 2 copies of Magic Planter. It allows you to send your extra copies of Reload to grave, or if you want to get your Vanities off board, it just allows you to send it to grave and get a +1. I mean, it technically is a +0, but if you have multiple reloads, it is a +1 because you don't need the extras. Plus, it puts a reload in graves that can banish from grave to get its effect. 3 copies of Pot of Duality. It's really just to dig deeper into your deck, and it doesn't hurt your strategy that much because you don't special summon too much. But if you do need to special summon, you can just like leave this in hand and pitch it with Summoner Monk or something. 1 Foolish allows you to send Shell, Farfa, and Volcanic Counter. So, I mean, it's not bad. I'm not sure how I like it in the deck, but so far it's been working out pretty well. 3 copies of MST. Just because this deck tries to outgrind game your opponent, and playing against decks like Satellar Knights and other heavy back row decks, those are probably the worst matchups because they'll be trying to outgrind game you too. So having the MSTs is really helpful, and it helps against floodgates like Soul Drain and Skill Drain also. It's just another spell for Summoner Monk. For traps, 3 copies of Blaze Accelerator Reload. It's the new support that made them actually relevant. It allows you to pitch a Volcanic from hand to draw one card, and then you can, if it's in the graveyard, you can banish it from the graveyard to send a Volcanic from deck to grave. So it allows you to trigger Scatter Shot during either player's turn and make Volcanic Shell give you huge plussing, and it also allows you to put extra copies of Rocket or Counter in the graveyard to get free cards. One copy of Vandy's because this deck, it's another continuous trap for Magic Planter, and it doesn't hurt your deck too much. 3 copies of Reckless Greed. I mean, you wouldn't play less than 3 because of the Reckless into Reckless into Reckless. But, this just is another card that increases the speed of the deck. This deck is already super fast for an anti-meta deck. And then 2 burn cards I play, 1 Magic Cylinder and 1 Ring of Destruction. This is good removal in general for most decks, and then also on top of that, it burns, and I've gotten game with this, even with the errata, if you just intentionally get their life points down to where, like, if they summon a Dante, they have exactly 2,500, just Ring of Destruction Dante for game. But yeah, and then Magic Cylinder, because once they get rid of that's why I play 1 copy of Magic Cylinder, 1 copy of Counter, is because once they get rid of the Counter, generally people who play Counter aren't also playing Magic Cylinder, so then they get a false sense of security when they get rid of Counter, and then they run into the Magic Cylinder, and a lot of times Magic Cylinder makes it game. 1 copy of Compulse and 1 copy of Torrential for one of traps that just, they're good removal. Sadly, they don't burn. That would be amazing. But this just clears the board. It doesn't matter if your monsters get destroyed because, I mean, the worst thing is possibly a Lavalval Chain or a Volcanic Doomfire. Other than that, generally, it's not going to matter. And Compulse is just a good out to most monsters that you can't get around. 2 copies of Breakthrough. I know a lot of people have been playing Fiendish. I understand where that's coming from, but half the time my back row is completely filled up, and I don't want to be clogging it with more continuous traps. Plus, Breakthrough, you can use it twice on 2 different monsters. 2 Wing Blasts is the last card. It just discard outlet for extra shells or Farfa, and it spins the card back to the top of their deck and sets them back a turn. Onto the extra deck. I mean, I didn't really spend a ton of time making the extra deck. It's not that hard to figure out. 1 Rhapsody and Berserk for Nekroz matchup, mainly. Also Shaddoll to get rid of the Shaddoll spell and traps in grave. I mean, yeah, it's not bad. Then 2 copies of Gaia Cowboy, because this is a burn deck, and that second Gaia Cowboy, although I didn't think I would ever need it because I don't overlay that much, it has won me games. 1 copy of Abyss Dweller for Mirror Match, Burning Abyss, Shaddoll, stuff like that. 1 Lavalval Chain. I know a lot of people play 2. 2 reasons why I don't play 2. 1, I don't think 2 is needed. And 2, I don't feel like spending $40 for another copy when I'm never going to use the second copy. I've never needed the second copy. But I mean, it's good to just stack the Doomfire or send the reload to grave. 1 copy of Castell because it's decent removal. Just spins the card back to deck. 1 copy of Heartland Draco. Can be game often. 2 copies of Arc. I mean, I had the second Arc and I had room, so I just decided why not. But I mean, if you plan on running this deck, you really only need 1 Arc. I think I've only made the second Arc once. And 1 Ragna Zero, not quite as relevant with Clifford's not being too huge of a thing anymore, but Clifford's are still a bad matchup because Scattershot will not affect them, so if you do happen to play against someone who's crazy enough to play Clifford still, this does put in some work because it gives you more drawing, and it gives you more board presence than your opponent. One copy, and the last one I play is Karen Gorgon, just because he is good against like Yosenjus and stuff. If you know that they've got the comma 1, and yeah, comma 1. I mean, he's just a good card in general, and he's 2450, so he does get over random stuff. I mean, I have more slots in the extra deck, as you may have noticed. I just don't feel you need any. I mean, maybe a Emerald, I just haven't picked one up yet. Okay, on to the side deck. One second. Okay, I haven't completely finished the side deck either because I'm just a bit too lazy. But it's a 13-card side deck. I mean, I would never really feel exciting in anything other than these. 3 Droll and Lockbird, because this deck does do a bit of searching itself. So having the 1-turn mistake is really good against Necros. And it's a hand trap, so they can't MST it or anything. 2 copies of Flying Sea for Burning Abyss and Satellar Knights. Satellar Knights are a pretty bad matchup for this deck because they'll just go Tribear and get rid of all my stuff. So just being able to Flying Sea is amazing against Satellar Knights in this deck. 2 copies of Shared Ride. I mean, Shared Ride's good against Necros, oh yeah. And then 1 copy of Crush Card, because if you play against Necros, you can just make Rhapsody and Berserk, or I also main deck the 2 Farfas, and you can hit it with Crush Card, and it will half the time make Necros lose, because it just gets rid of everything. Gets rid of Trish, gets rid of Valkyris, gets rid of Brio. It's just an amazing card against them. 3 copies of Imperial Iron Wall for Ritual Beasts, and also against Necros, because mainly, I mean, yeah, I know it definitely hurts Necros because they can't Valk, they can't use their spells in grave, but mainly in this deck, it's because you don't want them to get rid of one of the scatter shots in grave. If they do, you lose. So you have to use the Imperial Iron Walls. Plus, also, it's a continuous trap, so if you don't need it anymore, you can just send it to grave with Magic Planner. And then last card, 2 copies of Mistake, because once you've done all your searching, it's perfectly fine to drop the Mistake in here. You can send it to grave with Magic Planner if you need to search or anything. So, I mean, it's good, but I wouldn't play it at 3 in this side deck. I would definitely play Droll and Lock over it, because if you do need to search, Mistake hurts you. Droll and Lockbird's only 1 turn, though. Okay, so that was the deck profile. I hope you all liked it, and see you next time.